Ulonga tabati yada to yẹ kó máa da Ifá. Inú tó yẹ kó jẹun lọ́ fi bí pa. Ọba tálá, ọba takuntakun. Ṣàngó, Èṣù, Ògún, Ọya, Ọ̀ṣun. Kí ni ṣẹ̀ṣe tán ṣe nílé yìí o? Ó jẹ́ lọ jára.
Alapia, peace and blessings, Oboro, Oboye, Aboshishe. Welcome to another episode of the African Spirituality Experience. I am your host, Orisha Gbemi, and today we have on our community elder, the icon, the legend, Oloye Baba Ifa Karade. Baba, what's going on? How you doing today, Baba?
All right, Aboato. Peace and love to everyone. Alafia, Ife, everything is good. Thank you for the accolades and the flowers, man, while I'm still putting my feet on the ground, you know. So it's all good, man. Peace and blessings to the people, you know. Ireo, you know. Ireo. And to you, my brother. And to you. All right.
Appreciate you, Baba, as always. Most certainly. Most certainly. Yes, sir. Okay. Well, you know, as always, there's always a lot going on and a lot to talk about. So, you know, in the latest, I would say the latest developments in the culture and in the tradition, you know, I think it's been touched on now with the Oba Adefunmi II. I know we mentioned it as well on a previous call briefly, but, you know, that was something that kind of rocked the culture. You know, there's a lot of people who still are trying to, I think, I would say, like, digest it, you know, and come to grips and terms with, you know, such a major event unfolding throughout the Sheshe community and culture. And with that, you know, that's something that, you know, we're kind of going to touch and tap into some things in terms of the culture, in terms of the community, you know, of Sheshe and Ifa and Orisha. And something that we spoke about briefly off air, that I know that was something that you want to really like dive, you know, take a deep dive into in regards to sharing with the community, in terms of like the significance of, like, you know, the elements of covenants, oaths, and how those two elements kind of can tie into our destinies. So, you know, with that, Baba, what are some of the aspects of, or I should say, the significance of covenants when it comes to people who are on this tradition or who are on this path of Sheshe and Orisha and Ifa, this spiritual tradition? Like, what are some of the significance of covenants when people make covenants?
All right. It's of great significance. And you know, I want to continually bestow condolences, you know, in respect to the transitioning of the Oba.
Okay.
And it all ties into what we in Isheshe, what we in Ifa see as our reality on the earthly plane and our reality on the spiritual plane. Okay. Because we were not raised to accept the African concepts of afterlife. We were raised to accept the Eurocentric, and even more specifically, because not all European indigenous tribes and nations were Christians. You know, there was a whole line of historically developing people before Catholicism, and then the later offshoots of the Protestants, Puritans, and, you know, all the way up to the Jehovah's Witnesses, you know, the Baptists and the Methodists, you know, and all have branched out. But the Catholics hold the major core, you know, they brought it into being. I'm saying all that to say that what we've come to believe is based on what we've come to know. And that knowledge, no matter how we've come to wrestle with that knowledge, it is nevertheless ingrained, embedded, because it was injected at such an early age, and we can't dismiss that. You know, that's pure science right there. Okay, and it's almost like the imprint of the little bird. You know, the first thing it sees is its mother. You know what I mean? No matter what else it is, you know. But so we have to kind of again wrestle with. Okay, so we're into quote unquote African traditional religions. Okay, into Isheshe, we're just seeking to regain the essence of our ancestry, but we lack knowledge. And if we lack the knowledge, then it is difficult, if not impossible, to formulate and crystallize belief. You can't believe in something that you know nothing about, that you never heard of. You know what I mean? It's just not a part of your psychological, making. It's not a part of who you are. It's not a part of your cultural reinforcement. And, it's not a part of anything that you know. So it's difficult, if not impossible, to believe. So we involve ourselves in Isheshe, and we are doing the best we can. We are, okay? We've been disconnected and torn to shreds and torn from our mothers and, and then reshaped into, dare I say, subhuman, okay, categories and the treatment that we received. And then based on the historical, like the Reconstruction after the Civil War, many of the Northerners came down to into the South as carpetbaggers and also as the American Missionary Association, the AMA. They came down and started hammering Christianity into us as if it wasn't already, forced upon us via enslavement.
Enough, right?
Okay, exactly. So now we just going to go pour salt in the wound, and when you grow up not knowing, and when you're oppressed and when you're impoverished, and and as a mass of people disconnected over 400 or 500 years, okay, from the belief system, from the knowledge, what else do you have? Because we all have to believe in something. That's just part of the human construct.
Right.
There's something, inherent in us that reaches towards and beyond our physical embodiment. Okay. And so here we are, and it's embedded and it's ingrained and it's rewarded if you accept it to a degree, and it's punished. It's a punishment if you don't accept it. That's just the whole Inquisition, Protestant Inquisition and Catholic Inquisition. You do or you die. I know Christian folks don't like to hear this, but yeah, it's there. Just like the Muslim folks, the jihad, you submit or you die by the sword kind of thing. Like, wow, ran a lot of people out of Kemet, Okay. When the Arabs came in and started taking over, either you're going to become Muslim or you're going to die. People say, no, we're just going to get up on out of here. It started pushing eastward, and of course taking knowledge that had an impact on the religions and the culture of the people whom they came in contact with, all the way to the West Coast. See, having knowledge of this is the basis for belief. Okay. I'm doing a conference one time upstate New York, back in the day when I used to be on the road with this, lecturing and going to different conferences, Orisha conferences and all that kind of thing that was happening back then, more so than now. Okay. And, you know, I was laying things down like in layers. Okay. And then one young man, you know, with his little entourage, it was like, well, we didn't come to hear all that. We didn't come to hear all what, you know, all the historical. And I said, if you didn't come to hear it, it's okay that you leave.
I know that's right.
Because, you know, and I had to lay it down to him. You take any religious text, and I'm sure you're speaking more from your kind of biblical indoctrination, right? That, you know, there's a history of a people inside of the Bible.
Right, right.
There's a history of a people inside of the Bhagavad Gita. There's a history of a people inside of the Quran. Okay. And may be interpreted from spiritual planes and dimensions and the God force and all that kind of thing. But they're showing what happened historically. Okay. And even if that historical, which in religious text becomes allegorical, you know, you know, divine intervention and demons and angels fighting and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, okay, all that's in there, but it's still the history of the people. And when we take to the Odu Ifa, it's the same thing. The kings, you know, Orunmila consults King so-and-so because such and such was happening. Or the people were moving from such and such an area to another area, and they consulted the diviners to see, you know, what did it, you know, there's history there. They're not just made up stories.
Right.
You know, so then it's like, okay, so if you didn't come to hear the history, then you didn't come to hear about Ifa. You didn't come to hear about Orisha. You know, Shango was a king. Obatala did exist countless centuries before Shango. Okay. This is history. This is fact. You don't want to do the research. You don't want to know because you don't really want to believe. You don't want to believe in the salvation of it. You don't want to believe in the afterlife of it. You don't want to believe in the covenants and the oaths. You want to call it your religion, but you're not religiously embracing it. You see, man, I got to tell people, man, I didn't know how to lay it out because other than that, you just want the, you know, the hoopla. You want the ceremonies, you want the rituals, you know, you want the power, you know what I mean?
All the flashy stuff.
Huh?
It's all the flashy stuff.
Oh yeah, yeah. But all that glitters is not gold.
Facts.
You know, you got all the flashy, but you're not getting the empowerment. Okay.
And you know, it's two things. There's two things that I wanted to ask your question or opinion on that relates to what you're speaking on in terms of like the whole how things came about. When you were speaking about the whole the history of this tradition, right? It reminded me of a call that just went up on the channel, like I think yesterday, as a matter of fact. But it was with the psychic healer Millie Reynoso, and she was telling me on that call that when she does healing sessions with her clients, she can tell the people who have suffered trauma literally from birth. She can sense it, she can feel it, she can like literally like interpret their energy and how they have suffered trauma from their birth. So I want to ask you this, and the way she broke it down was she can tell when she's doing healing work and energy work or Reiki work on clients that the people who were breastfed, the people who were born naturally, and the people who were born through C-section, she can tell which babies when they were born were given directly to their mother for the mother to either start breastfeeding them or to nurture them, just to hold them and to embrace them and cultivate them, or the ones who might have had a more difficult delivery that might have had to go straight to like, you know, get procedures done or whatever the case may be, that didn't go right to the mother. She said she could feel the difference in the disconnect because of the way, I forgot how she broke it down, but she said she can feel that. But when you were speaking, it kind of triggered something in my mind to be like, okay, so that to me sounds like us as a people when we were pulled away from Mother Africa, when we were pulled away from our spiritual, you know what I'm saying, lineage and ancestry, when we were pulled and ripped away from what was actually our traditional culture. I felt like what you were speaking on reminded me of what she was saying on how a person who has a magnified gift can feel that energy with someone who suffered trauma from the time they entered the world. So do you feel like there's some kind of correlation to us as a people, how we came into this country that way, being ripped away from Mother Africa and not having the same access to our traditional spiritual systems and practices? Like, do you feel like there's some similarity to us that might kind of, I guess, tie into that culturally for us as a people?
Yeah, definitely. Because now we're looking at like two terms that I like to throw out there, like microcosm and macrocosm. Okay, so in the sense of the healer, you know, she's dealing with kind of like the microcosm, you know.
And she said that too. I'm glad you said that, because she actually did mention that. Now that you say that,
right. So now we look at it from the macrocosm in terms of a people, you know, millions of people. Okay. Estimate 75 to 100 million. Okay. Who are not only torn from their land, from the motherland of we, you know, but literally torn from their blood mothers.
Yes.
Ripped from the womb, and if surviving, motherless child. You know, put in situations most horrific. Okay, labor camps. Okay, slavery at its worst. Oh, this little pretty picture that, you know, they show on TV and movies, it's scratching the surface. They dare not show the horrors. Okay, they dare not show it. Okay, so here we have this overlay of the micro and the macro. Now we'll take it another step further into a term that's called epigenetics.
Yep, I mentioned that too.
All right. So now you not only have the one child who's suffering the trauma of the genetic rupturing, but you have a whole people. Okay. A whole people. And not just a whole people in separation. We got the Ghanaian whole people. We got the Yoruba whole people. You know what I mean? I'll try to break it down to the Akan and the Twi. You know, we got all these different nations who are merged together, and we call one people, but they were actually branches from the same root, who are suffering traumas imposed. And now one of those traumas, if we had to line them up in terms of A, B, C, D, E, F, all the way, you know, would be lack of knowledge. Lack of knowledge. Okay. We're well fed, you know, relatively speaking. You and I, we sit here. Okay. Most of the people in Isheshe, you know, they kind of got it. They can afford their divinations. They can afford their ebos, you know what I mean, to get initiated. So it's not like we know, digging in the dirt.
Eating crumbs.
You know, but we're not dying from thirst. We're dying from lack of knowledge. Okay. And it's even to the point, again, social and psychological engineering, that, and forgive me for generalizing, most of us don't even want to seek it. There's no need to seek it. The afterlife and all the religious concepts and structures have been already embedded, ingrained, injected into our system, reinforced through school and media. You know, we're walking shells of misinformation, and the lack of our cultural knowledge isn't even being addressed dynamically in Isheshe, in Ifa. Okay, it's just not. Okay, I'm trying to change that, and been trying to change it since 1986. Okay, right. So the whole thing is, you know, just the same way that they keep throwing it at us and putting it into us, and making sure that we keep that image of God and that image of Savior and those terms that relate to the afterlife, heaven, hell, pearly gates and all that kind of stuff, making sure that stays strong, so that we don't feel as though we need to seek knowledge even of our own ancestral pre-colonial invasion, okay, of our people, colonial invasion of our people, pre-colonial in terms of what we were believing based on our knowledge for tens and thousands of years prior.
Right.
All of that gets washed away, because when we're born, okay, we're not born with that knowledge. We're born with the capacity to ignite that knowledge, yes, and attain it. If we go deep enough within, it's going to come out. I'm a witness to that.
Oh yeah, me too. You and me both.
Okay, so it can be done.
Yeah.
But now we become the Ojise. We become the messengers.
And I'm glad you said that too, Baba, because two things. One, the call that I was just telling you about before I got on here tonight. It was somebody who doesn't have really a whole lot of knowledge and awareness of the tradition, but is interested because the tradition is speaking to their spirit. But you know what I mean? But it goes back to what you were saying. It was already in there anyways. It just so happens that this person is seeking it now and ready to attain it, and boom, it ends up right in their lap. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's divine. It's definitely divine the way spirit moves and works. But I want to ask you a question about that, because I'm seeing different things online, and I do get where some of the people who are saying it is coming from. I get there's some validity to it, but also I want to hear your perspective on it, because I know that you have a very distinguished resume when it comes to being in a OGC. So one of the things that I'm seeing in the culture is people who are getting initiated, whether it be here or in Africa, and then coming back and like starting elays and taking on godchildren and just doing a lot. And some people who I feel like have more established and more grooming, have been raised and cultivated or trained for a lot longer time, or have a lot more experience with the way they were brought up in it, are frowned upon it, and rightfully so. I get why they disagree with people who are moving that way. But however, I also feel like, I know you've seen it from both sides of people wanting to be controlling and being manipulative, or being, possessive in people's development. I know firsthand from the stories that you've shared with me personally on and off air that that's something that you dealt with, which was something that, I know how you handled it as well. But what do you feel like, being someone who's experienced some of that, but also being in OGC, what do you feel like is the proper plan of action, or the proper, I would say, process for a person to actually start to want to teach and share and kind of give information to other people? Like, what do you feel like some of the prerequisites are for a person to be able to, receive initiations and to be able to actually be in a position to disseminate information and to lead others on their path? Like, what do you feel like is what some of the qualifications that a person should have, or at least have access to, before they start going that route?
Well, from my humble opinion, person should be well read, not just well initiated. Okay. I mean, especially as a Babalawo. Come on, Ifa described. So that means he can read and write, and come from Tehuti. The whole thing was like, that there's more to reading and writing than reading and writing.
Oh yeah.
It's deep thought. It's reflection. It's screening out. Filtering out. What is and what isn't, and what needs to be done, and what need not be done at any given particular time. So to have a wide range of knowledge is to have an expansion of mind. Okay. So as we kind of hit on one of our other talks, is that ignorance fuels greed. Ignorance fuels the manipulator. Ignorance fuels, the disruptive. Okay. And by study, okay, even the dawning of enlightenment brings different points of view, okay, different insights. Okay. When you start to read and study, okay, and not just be satisfied with being initiated or feeling as though now that you are initiated, you have some element of ashe that now you can now go out and do this and do that. Man, I studied for like almost 7 years before I got initiated. Okay. Although people were definitely trying to rush me in it. One hand in their pocket and the other hand on my head. I was like, I want to know. I want to know. You know what I mean? I want to have knowledge of this.
Right.
I'm not jumping up and down just to get initiated and come back. Oh, I got godchildren and I got this and I got that. Yeah, but you have all that. But do you have knowledge? Do you have wisdom? Or are you just, kind of passing on your ignorance? Because my godmother told me that I have to do people like this, and my godfather said, yeah, okay, but what have you learned? And again, that's why when I saw that there was no books highlighting this, I'm like, I'm the one who put my head to the ground for a ballet at the shrine of Rumula in Ile Ife. I'm the one who climbed that hill. I can't look at everybody and say, well, you should do this and you should do that. And I went through all of those experiences and I'm not doing anything. You know what I mean?
Right.
That does not compute. Because it's easy to start shaking your finger at people and tell, oh, you should do it this way and you should do it that way. But if you're not doing it, if you're not the role model, then you just tripping.
It's a slippery slope. Yeah. It's a slippery slope because I can see both sides. I can see the side where the people feel the way they feel about feeling maybe somebody might be inexperienced and not having enough, training and ashe and all that. I can see that wholeheartedly. But I also can see that side, which you just pointed out, is okay, there's a lot of people who have all that, but what are you doing with it?
Yeah.
Who are you empowering? Who are you helping? Who are you feeding? Who are you cultivating? Who are you nourishing? Who are you pouring into for you to want to look at the next person who is trying to do something? I'm not condoning saying that they're doing it right or they're doing, how people will see it, but they're doing something. Yes. And that's where I feel like it's a slippery slope. And to me, I feel like unity and coming together and pulling that person to the side, or at least maybe speaking to that person and sharing with them how you feel like they could do things better or whatever, because at the end of the day, this is all about us to empower and uplift us. You know what I mean? Not to like separate and be divisive to each other. So it's something that I definitely wanted to get your take on it, because I can see it both ways, but at the same time, I feel like, it's a slippery slope for sure, depending on which perspective you're looking at.
Exactly. And I'm just saying, as Babalaos specifically, okay, and as the Baba Orishas and Il Orishas, since you did ask me, you got to be well read. You got to start picking up. And we of the African community, we and especially if we're kind of stepping away from the whole Catholicism and the whole Christian indoctrination, then we have to fill that void. And one of the ways to do that is to study up on it, and then put your study into your thinking, into your dialogue, into your shift of the perspective paradigm is what I call it. You got to shift that perspective paradigm, and then you got to start having conversations with people like we're having these conversations. Then and then it grows, because now we're teaching. Now people are coming to realize, well, hey, you know what? Clearly they're right, because I got all of these initiations, I got all of these pots, and I got all of this, but I have no knowledge of salvation. I have no knowledge of covenants, oaths, and destiny. I have none of that. None of it. Can I fault my initiators? Well, to a degree. But do I have to look at myself? Because we have a saying, again, atite na kyoto rate. Once you've been initiated, you have to reinitiate yourself. You have to continually initiate yourself. Okay? And how are you going to do that? If you're still walking like this, well, this is Orisha, and, sure, okay, I got the songs, I got the dances, I get the rush, I got the abodes, I got my Odu and all of that. But what about your saving grace? Because we have another Orisha Gbemi and Nia Nini Bani. Okay. Orisha, save me, because I don't know how to save myself.
Sure.
Okay. So, these are all of what I've been sharing in terms of prerequisites, dare I say requirements. I'm not in any real wanting to say that, but I did put it down when I wrote a text called Imoye, which means wisdom. Wisdom. And so when I lined out was when you are getting initiated, your elekes, here's what you need to know. When you step up to your warriors, here's what needs to be considered. And now that you're getting your Ishefa, you were one of them, here's the next step. And now that you're making priesthood, here's the next step. Okay. I laid all that out in the book. People were interviewing me. I got written up in one of the Brooklyn papers, man. It was awesome. But on the other hand, I had some of the, Santeros and all that kind of stuff. Oh, he don't know what he's talking about. He just, tripping his brain, all that stuff. I'm like, yeah, say what you want, okay? Because I'm not writing it for you.
Facts.
I'm not writing it for your approval.
Facts.
You don't know me, I don't know you. You can have your opinion of my work, but they ain't changing me. And then all the folks from, up and down the East Coast, they were like, we needed something like this because nobody was sharing with us that we need to teach. And in order to teach, we need to know. We just don't want to sacrifice the goat. You know what I mean? We want to expand the Ori.
Right.
Now, when you put the 2 and 2 together, you got something.
Yeah.
So there may be people, to your point, who, and I'm not saying anyone who doesn't do it is bad. That's not my point. My answer to your question is in terms of, what are like the requirement or steps that would be taken, suggested, steps or levels. I would say at every level, elays start to determine not just what you're going to sacrifice and initiate into, but also what you're going to actually teach. And as the priestly in this way of existing, okay, we need to talk about imule, covenants. Okay. All right. I shared with you before, and I never wrote this in anything, and I shared with I took my leap of faith into Isheshe when news of my sister's imminent death reached my ears, and I was in my car rushing to the hospital because she had suffered an aneurysm and the brain was bleeding, and everybody, the doctors, all just going to die. And I'm driving, and and I'm in my spirit. That's my baby sister, okay. And I'm like, okay, Oba Tala, okay, you saved my sister, okay, and you have me for life. I'm making this covenant. This is my imule. I'm making this covenant. By the time I got to the hospital, this thing looked like she's going to be okay. Done. Done. You got me for life. And that following summer, I was in Nigeria.
Listening to the bell.
Huh?
Marching along behind the bell. That's what's up.
You know,
that's powerful.
And I went on and made Ifa because, you know, I have been being told all of this since 1987, you know. Mm-hmm. And it was like, okay, well, again, I'm not rushing into this, but when that 1991-ish kind of rolled around and my little sister was, you know, on death's bed and I made that covenant, I had never done anything like that before in my life, had never even considered doing anything like that before in my life. Those terms were never mentioned to me in all of the years I was going from house to house, temple to temple, ile to ile. These terms aren't a part of it. I discovered it through reading. I made it a part of who I am because there's something about, you know, having access to knowledge, however it comes. You know, and it wasn't even through the Isheshe covenant. It was just like knowing about covenants from just basic religious study. But it became real to me that night when I was driving to the hospital. And so real to me that I brought it into my existence. I welcomed Oba Tala in. I welcomed Ifa in and said, if you save my sister, okay, I'm yours for life. And that was 1991. It's 2024.
That's powerful.
You know, I got over 40 years in this. You know, there's a whole lot I don't know, but I got a little grain of sand. You know, got a little grain of sand. All right. So that becomes important. And you know, we can take that a step further when we do Imule to the earth, to Onile. You know, people can be taught to make covenants with the earth, make promises to the earth, into that shallow hole. Get on your knees, Ikunle, and speak your deepest. Make the covenant, make the oath, okay? And that's Ibura, okay? Ibura. When you make an oath, when you make an oath to Ogun, you do it upon the sword, kind of thing. You swear upon the sword. Like people in Ifa and Isheshe, instead of when they have to deal with like law and court situations, you don't have to put your hand on the Bible. It's like, what is that? And just a piece of paper with no, you're gonna swear on Ogun. They're like, oh,
if you want to. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's real. That is real for real too. That's a whole nother level of what do you say, circumstances and consequences.
Yes, sir. Okay. So again, you know, these conversations aren't part of the elays. You know, we're very ceremonial. We're very sacrificial. And I get it. Trust me, my people, my listeners, everybody, you know, I'm not saying that that's wrong. I'm just saying that, you know, through the years, you might consider preparing yourself for what's next.
Right.
In terms of your development and in terms of your understanding. And the reason why you have no idea what's next is because you have no knowledge. And therefore, your belief is in that box, you know, in that box. And then we talked about reincarnation. You know, reincarnation is in Ifa. It's not just a Hindu kind of thing. Okay.
Right.
We have our Bhikkhu. The child has come back. Somehow, for some reason, the child is continually passed on. My initiator, Baba Malomo. Okay. The child keeps coming back. So Ifa says in Oyèkú Méjì, which is kind of interesting that you have that as your book. Okay. We'll talk about that later. Okay. So
listen.
Let me tell you that from the jump.
Listen, I'm gonna tell you, real quick too, and it'll come out to the new time. By the time this episode come out, it might actually be out. But I'm gonna tell you what was even more deep about that, Baba, and I don't want to lose your thought.
No, it's all good.
I was debating on one picture, but that old dude spoke in multiple ways, like some of the messages in it, but also, and this is where I feel like Spirit really, really led me to go ahead and make that the one, is because when you look at the imprints of Oyèkú Méjì on the Opa Ifa, for those who know it, they know it's the Odu, but for those who are laymen or brand new to the tradition, they would look at that and see that it looks like double 11s, like 1111, right? If you look at how it's put into the Opa, so that was the day I was born. I went into the room on 1111. So to me, I'm like, yo, this is a way deeper, you know what I'm saying, synergy and a way deeper alignment. So I had to go with that Oyèkú Méjì because it spoke to me through Spirit when I saw it, and then I was like, oh, you know what I'm saying? I started putting the numerical aspects into it, and the numerology, like, oh, that's deep. So yeah. But trust me, I know I'm not gonna get past you.
Man, you know. But and it's also connected, man. It's all as we say in divine order.
Right? Order, synchronized.
The heartbeat of Oyèkú is the aversion of death.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, yes. And so this is where the wife of death betrays death because of Orunmila, because she starts to see that life needs to continue. And so Orunmila now has a secret that he uses to quell death, because death was coming for everybody all the time. And Orunmila is like, I got to do something about this because this fool has lost his mind up in here. So he appeals to the wife, okay, which is interesting when we start talking about, you know, masculine and feminine. Because see, every time we hear husband and wife, we think concretely. We don't think philosophically or spiritually, okay, or even hormonally. You know, that's how we're taught. That's not how we are. That's just how we've been molded, so to speak, or torn apart. Okay, but the whole thing is, you know, the heartbeat of that Odu deals with the aversion of death. When you break that Odu down, it's Oyèkú. Okay. Now that's what I'm sharing with, you know, people who are seeking the knowledge that every Odu has, like every name, it has a meaning. Okay. Agbe. Agbe is to be saved. Okay. Ba Be, okay, is a saving grace. Oyèkú. Irosun, Osun, the staff of the Ifa priest, you know. But see, nobody's looking at it like that. Nobody's teaching. Now, back to, you know, the discussion at hand. Because we are set to avert death through Ashe, African spiritual experience, we're not only talking about physical death, we're also talking about the spiritual death of our people. Going back to your statement about the macrocosm and the microcosm. See how this is like making real sense right here, right now? Okay.
I'm taking real notes too.
So, you know, it is up to the OG say, you know, because we are the Babalao, you know, and not every Babalao is said to be a diviner. Okay. Now I learned this when I was studying with Baba Abimbola. Okay. Said coming up, you know, you guys, all y'all see is Babalao, you know, no, some Babalaos were just teachers, you know, community activists, you know, there was like different types of Babalaos, like there are different types of physicians. So somebody, oh, well, I'm a doctor. Okay, well, can you break that down a little bit? You know,
which type?
You know, I'm a Babalao. Okay, can you break that down a little bit? Okay,
yeah. And
that's when I started to see when all of my kind of doing divinations and ebos and all that had come to a certain point where it was like, you know, something is pulling me. I just remember that, you know, you are still a Babalao. Okay. You've just been, you know, lifted to another place. I'm not saying it's high or lower. It's just somewhere else. but you got all of that knowledge behind you. You have all of that experience behind you. And now you got to make it into something. And that's when I started writing novels and, getting into, being here for people who want me here. I'm not going to be where I'm not wanted. Okay. Why? You know what I mean? I ain't trying to be no missionary and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Although I am on a mission. Okay.
Right.
But the whole thing with Oyèkú Méjì and how it deals with epigenetics, how do we stop the trauma, the abiku? How do we stop ourselves from being, without life before we're with life? See, we die as babies, even spiritually. Okay. And when we get into Oyèkú Méjì, we start kind of reaching into the significance of sound, having bells, okay, wind chimes, and all of that to help ward off the rebirthing of death in our people.
Shit.
Man, okay. So
that's deep. That's real deep.
Oh, and then reincarnation takes it. We have the tune days, about return and coming back. Yeah, return. It's all there. The reincarnation is there.
Baba, let me ask you real quick about the significance. I hate to cut you off, but it's just because
it's all good.
It's going deep. This conversation is going deep as they always do. But what is the significance when we talk? I have a good grasp, but I would like to hear it from your point too, though, for the listeners and for myself. What is the significance in the Ibejis in terms of this tradition and culture? The Ibeji, the twins.
Yeah. There was a time they were killed. Okay. And it's set up until about the time of Shango. And Shango was like, okay, enough of this. But there were still vast segments of people who thought that it was the thing to do. Okay. Because it was, my presumption is, it was abnormal.
Right. That's how they took it. That's how they were looked at upon. Right?
Yeah. And these forces coming down, and you can imagine maybe mothers not surviving because the science wasn't keeping up with it. All kinds of things are probable. Okay. I don't want to say that I know, but I can only assume. Okay.
Speculate. Right.
Yeah. So then it changed, and as retroactive continuity goes, the stories change, and now Ibeji become forebearers of good fortune. Now, when one of the twins survives, now remember the baby that comes out first is the youngest in the Yoruba tradition. Because the one who stays in the womb the longest, it's gaining more access. So that's where you'll have the first child from the womb is the youngest. But in Western tradition, the first child is the oldest, right? It was the older of the two. All right, but that's again just something to not be surprised about when you come across. But at any rate, if one of the children pass on, one of the twins, then a doll is made, and the mother holds on to that doll. Okay, and when you start thinking about how a mother is just psychologically torn, much less physically, when her child does not survive, we start to see the therapeutic value of that doll. Okay. And as I've read and studied, some of just my interest in healing, was picked up even by modern day science, where mothers who lose a child during birth are given like a doll or something in that shape and form and fashion to help them, you know, to
postpartum depression.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of
the child is dead? You know, the child is passed on. Yes.
Gotcha. Have you ever heard of? And I'm gonna get back on track, but I was curious.
We are still on track. We are not off track.
I got you. Because my house, man, we got a set of Méjis, and these brothers are powerful. I love these young brothers. They're young brothers too, but they actually came out together, like literally together. Like, it is so dope because even now as grown men, young men, they still, I don't know, I might have, in all the years I've known both of them, I might have maybe seen one of them without the other maybe 2 times. And we're talking about over a good, let me see, of a good maybe 5 to 7 year span. I might have seen them with, I only saw one of them maybe 2 times out of the whole 5 to 7 year span I've known them. That's how close they still are to this day.
Well, that works. I mean, that's twins, man.
Yeah.
You know, now coming more from the Western side, one's good, one's evil kind of thing. I don't run across that too much,
right,
if at all, in Ifa. You know, it's like twins are twins. You know,
right.
And
yeah, boy, shout out to the Méjis. I know they rock. I love them brothers.
Yeah. So all that's good, but see, again, how we perceive things, you know, is culturally based and culturally biased.
Yeah.
Okay. Like, I have Nigerian students, and sometimes in my class they're twins. And when the oldest one, when I call the oldest one the baby, most of the kids in the class, you know, they're like, what? They don't get it. And then the Nigerian, they start laughing because
it's funny.
Yeah, they kind of heard their grandmamas talk about it, but some of them were even born in the States. So it's on the birth certificates, it will still say, but I said, look, I know the deal. Okay.
That's dope.
First one out, you the baby. And in every case, okay, the first one out is not a
junior
to the older one. The older one is like, yeah, I got to look out for him. And then people are like, well, you the youngest. Well, I don't know why it's like that, you know, and I'm saying, well, because you got that genetic thing happening where you know, but you don't really know what you're manifesting, you know, is that because you were in your mother's womb longer, you now have, you know, that something extra to give. It's powerful. But see, when we start talking about averting death, and when we start talking about, you know, dealing with the traumas, you know, the epigenetics of it all, you know, and when we start thinking in terms of death in the macrocosm, we start looking at learning and gaining knowledge of ourselves, okay, in our belief systems based on that knowledge, not based on Catholicism, not based on Christianity. And people could talk about, oh, well, it's the same. No, it's not the same. It's not the same. Okay. It's different. You can have many trees in the forest, but they all aren't the same type of tree. No. So you can call them all trees, or you can call it all a forest. But the deeper you investigate, you start to see, oh, that's a sycamore, and oh, that's an oak, and oh, that's a pine. You know, it's different. And not every tree is a healing for everybody. Okay. So, yeah, you know, and again, that's no slight against whatever tree that you know, gather fruit from. That's on you. But this here is African spirituality experience. This is Ashe. So this is where I'm coming from.
And you know what, too, what you saying that, Baba, is like how the Western world is so different from our traditional indigenous, you know, heritage. It even goes back to when you talk about reading Ifa, like reading the old prelate. You know, we read from right to left. instead of left to right.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So it's like that within itself, when you, as you were saying that, I was thinking like, dang, that's dope, because even kind of, to me, ties into even like how, interpreting the messages from divination.
Exactly. And that predates Islam. So it's not, oh, the Muslims bought it. No, it was there before y'all even got there. Ain't nobody thinking about y'all like that. You know what I mean? We had this whole system lined up. We knew what we were doing. And then we talk about Europeans coming in and taking the Odu and developing the binary system, which then led to the computer. I mean, it's awesome, but we're not taught it. We don't believe it. If you talk to any Shay person, it just drives me to tears. It's like, what about our afterlife? What about our salvation? What we're singing songs to the Orisha, but what songs are you singing to the essence of your soul? What's going on here? What about destiny, a yanmo? Okay, but how does that tie into your ori? Well, what are we actually bringing to the people now that we're the babas and the iyas and all of that? What are we doing? Okay, all right, and we can't wait. Oh, well, that's for the initiated. I hear the majority of people saying, when I did present the question, I don't even ask anybody anymore. It's like, I ain't got time for it. Okay. But the whole thing is, oh, that wait till they get initiated. No, people don't wait to teach their children church songs until they become preachers and pastors. People don't wait to teach the children of how to memorize the Quran before they become imams. You understand? So you're not making any sense to me. That it's not logical. You don't wait until that mind is so concrete that it's difficult to now, bring forth the seeds of knowledge that become belief. Okay. So if we talk about Orun Re Re, okay, the good heaven. Okay. And we talk about Orun Apadi, as we kind of talked about the last time we spoke, that place where the broken pots go. Okay. In terms of what is ahead of us in the afterlife. And then when we start talking about how our ancestors didn't see going to the sky gods, but into different levels within the earth. Okay. And the analogy we drew was Hades of the Greeks. Okay. We return to the earth. Okay. There's no up. The essence of your spirit goes out. But you in your burial are born back again into your mother, dare I say?
Go back within.
You go back within. And this blows people's mind. It's like, no, we're going to heaven. No, but who told you that? And when did they tell you that? And how often did they tell you that? And how were you rewarded when you believed that? And how were you punished when you didn't believe it?
That's really, really, really deep, Baba. I think that's something I want to just kind of like, if you don't mind, like kind of just doing a quick lap run through, because if people are familiar with our whole, the whole system, the whole process, it might go over some people's heads. So what you're saying is, when we transition out of these bodies, right, primarily the spirit, the auric self, the elements of our essence goes out into the atmosphere, back into the air, right? And then, of course, this shell, this temporary tomb that we call a body, it then returns back into the core of what is the mother of the earth, right? Yeah. It goes with it.
Yeah.
That's deep. That's deep.
And with that, the essence of one's soul. Okay. And it's a great shift, but there's nothing new. This whole sky god thing and going up to heaven, is relatively new to humanity. and it was somebody's idea, and they made it happen. And may have been Paul or whomever, you know, with his letters and things like that. Okay, but so okay, that perhaps is how you see it and the way you feel as though it should go. I get that. Okay, but if I don't want to believe it based on the knowledge that I'm attempting to regather within myself, I don't have to believe it. I don't have to believe it. And you can call me sinful and tell me I'm going to hell, and you know, you can do whatever you want, because see, that's the punishment aspect of it. Believe what I believe, or you know, well, you're gonna get punished. You know, you may not get the job, you may not get, you know, get the financial reward, you know, you might not get a whole lot of things because you don't believe what I believe. But if you believe, okay, I might lynch you later on, but I'm going to get the most I can out of you while I can. And I know that sounds a little prejudicial, but hey, it's a fact. Okay, because you know, religions ain't stop anybody from being, you know, horrible. You know?
Yeah.
So you know, so we take it to the next step. You know, I want to believe what my knowledge is reinforcing. I want to believe what has delivered me. Okay, I want to believe what I see as a healing grace for my people. Okay, I am an Ifa priest of the African dimension. I don't need the Western. I have no need for it. And now I know there's other people out there. There's people out there who do. I ain't got no slight. But don't look at me because I don't and feel as though you got to come up with some kind of way to punish me, because I'm going to let you know. You don't have the right. You don't have the right to call me heathen or pagan or, you know, voodooish, or he don't know what he's talking about. I know damn well what I'm talking about.
I sure.
You know, and I know damn well that you don't.
Listen,
but I'm not going to argue with you because I'm too old. I got with so much time left. I'm going to enjoy it, you know. And when I got to deal with you, I'll deal with you in a way that hopefully will at least have you think. That's all. Just think, you know. So we have an afterlife. We have reincarnation. Okay. And on a certain plane, even a Romulus states that if you do good in life, if you contribute to the betterment of humanity, then you will not have to suffer continual reincarnations on the flip side. Okay. I know it seems a little contradictory, but through time you start to see, you know, how they overlap, though different. So there's a part of us, that soul aspect, that goes back into the earth, that we don't want to reincarnate. We want to do so good in this earth at this time that we rest well. See, that we don't become a bhikkhu. We keep coming back. You know, we don't want to be the ghosts because of the traumas, and now we're seeking to be embraced by Ogban, who is the ram that kind of helps discern who's going to Orun Rere and who's going to Orun Apadi.
That's deep. That's really deep, actually, because as you're speaking and breaking that down, and I'm gonna share this because I've noticed it on many shows that we've done together, but I never actually spoke about it until tonight. But I am going to speak upon it because I believe in synchronicity, alignment, and syncretism. But as you're saying that, I'm looking at you, but my third eye, my mind's eye, is looking at Orunmila right behind you. And as you're breaking down everything you're saying about the elements, about the aspects of spirit and the soul and return to the earth, I'm looking at this Orunmila behind you. And I love that picture because it's the picture of him in the physical form, but kind of multidimensional. I feel like he's also in the spiritual form because you can see the universe protruding through his his right side and his physical on the left side. But even more so to the fact that you wore your head cap today. I didn't wear mine. but Arumula's wearing his in the picture. But then also, we've never once spoke ever about what we're wearing when we record these shows or what we're gonna have on. But every single time it has been in alignment, as if we pre-planned or pre-gamed about what's going on, to the point where today, I'm not sure when it's gonna this episode will air on the channel, but today is Oshe Ifa Day, and today is Arumula's day. And I got on green, you got on the brownish, and then you got Arumula behind you, and then even to like with the Ileke of Arumula, which would be the green, and then the brown for like, it's just so many different synchronicities and so many different alignments that were not like planned, premeditated, none of that. It's just spirit doing what spirit does. And it's extremely powerful, because I couldn't stop looking at the picture as you was explaining, explaining the differences about the destinies of where people, end up based upon the work that we do while we're here in this body. So it's like, it was really speaking really loud in my spirit, like to share that with the people, that this is not by mistake, none of it. You know what I mean? Like, everything is happening in divine time with the divine alignment.
Right. Everything is in divine order. I mean, and that goes back to our sincerity, people who are listening out there. We're not staging this. You know what I mean? We didn't go over the script, before. Spirit is moving us to speak what needs to be spoken, and if you are still listening, Spirit is speaking to you.
Not sure.
To listen and gain the knowledge, because at some point we have to formulate and crystallize what we in Isheshe actually believe. Actually believe, okay? Because ancestrally, obviously, that's what we were doing, and as beings who live in a finite embodiment, okay, it's helpful to reflect and determine death, not in the fear of it, but in the life of it. I just wrote in book 2 of reflection, elder reflections, that I have a plan, and I titled it My Plan. And my plan is to live fully. And that doesn't mean going out and spending a lot of money and chasing women folk and, going to see the world and all that kind of stuff. No, put more time into your meditation, more time into that chi essence, and see that as the Abba essence, more time in communing with nature and seeing that that's Orisha, seeing Orisha deeply inside of myself as a portal. I want to live to my inward fullness, because death is coming. Death is coming in a multitude of possibilities, a multitude of possibilities. Whoever knows? Whoever knows? But to be involved in the Sheshe and have such a deep and abiding appreciation, okay, enhances life. Aiku, life. Life defeats death. And that's what Arumula teaches us in Iku. In Oyèkú, okay? In Oyèkú. Life defeats death. Okay? Because even after you die, if you've lived well, if you've lived good, your life energy and essence continues.
I love it. Listen, I wanna wrap it up there, but I want to ask one more question that goes along with that. Just one, and that's it. And the only reason is because I love where that went, especially breaking down the Odu, and then the fact that I know why you broke it down. I know why you broke it down, but destiny. Where does destiny fall in the process of everything that we spoke about up until this point.
Mm-hmm.
For us to lead the people with a final, message from the OGC. Where does destiny fall in alignment with everything that we discussed today?
Now, given a lot of thought to this over time, right? And when we look at destiny from our ancestral, okay, we come to understand that much of what we become has been placed upon us before we get here.
Mm-hmm.
Either because we asked for it or because it was predetermined prior to. Okay. Mm-hmm. And so then when we're born, okay, like say, when I made Ifa, it was stated to me by the elders that you were born to do this. This is your destiny. Okay. This is your destiny. I'm like, well, my first time hearing it, and it's not often that we discuss destiny from a Western, educational, academic, place.
Perspective.
Yeah, perspective. Mm-hmm. Okay. So, all right. So I'm feeling this. This is why, I'm here, nobody dragging me here. I'm crossing deserts and oceans, you know what I mean? And climbing mountains. I'm here, So I say, yeah, because it's your destiny.
Mm.
And yeah, I embrace that. But then I started thinking about our ancestors who were enslaved. And I said, well, was it their destiny to become slaves? Was it their destiny to drown themselves in the oceans? Was it the destiny of that child to be killed by the mother because she didn't want him to be enslaved? You understand? So the earthly construct, in terms of, I call it the hands of history, has a way of disrupting our destiny. Okay. Whereas in times of development and relative peace, like say the people who built the Benin Wall, the people who established the courts during Shango's time, the quote unquote medieval period, the elders of Obatala's time, that they lived in a world, okay, a society, a culture where it was stable, more so prior to invasions. You see where I'm coming from? So they could better determine, okay, oh, well, this child's going to be this, or this child, happened to be this, or this child was blessed with this ability. And, that this child's going to be a part of a growing priestly order, or a growing order of wrestlers, or a growing order of farmers. It all must have happened before the child was born. Again, we can look at genetics and this being a possible way to explain in a way, but to see in a way how we relate genetics to faith factors, allegoricals. You know what I mean? That's if we're not scientists who are studying it. And there may have been scientists who knew going back to Kemetan times, but for the general masses, just like most people don't discuss genetics, even in high schools, you know what I mean? So it's just not a part of the discussion. So I'm saying all that to say that, oh, you're just like your father, or, your father had these kind of ways, or, your grandfather was a mechanic. So I see where you got that from. You understand? All these kind of things happen. And we may have interpreted as this is a covenant, back to that you made with the divine forces. Okay. No matter where you want to put them, on the ground, on top of the mountain, up in the sky, wherever, that this is your destiny. You are so born to be this. We ain't got nothing to do with war. We ain't got nothing to do with enslavement. That's the heavy hand of history, but even throughout that, okay, the terrorists who took us could see that, oh, well, this child is good at singing or playing the piano or this, that, and other thing. Blessed by God, the grace of God, or God has blessed you with these talents. It's the same kind of thing. It was done by, quote unquote, surreal forces, spiritual forces, God-like forces. It's the same way of looking at it, but differently. Okay. And a scientist may say, well, all that's nice allegorically. I can see how you put religious context and spiritual context to it. But when I look under this microscope, I'm seeing DNA. You know what I mean? I'm seeing genetics. But guess what? Another 500 years from now, somebody going to look at what you see as child's play.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's just, technological advancement. And
process of evolution. The process of evolution.
Yeah. In all fields. So then you're going to have people looking at you the same way that you looking at me. Okay. So no, it's not primitive. It's not, irrational. It's just different.
Right.
But you will still hear from the masses of people, no matter where they're from, oh, this child was blessed with the talent. God gave me the ability to be the preacher. You know what I mean? God spoke to me. It's my destiny to do this.
Right.
We had the same kind of thing, but we talked about it Ori. And we talked about the covenant that's made prior to our birth.
Oh, shit. I love it. That's it.
Yeah,
that's it right there. I'll take that. That's what's up, man. I appreciate that, bro. That was dope. That was dope.
But the shame of it is, and I use the term loosely, is that for us, because of the heavy hand of history, I had to be like in my 30s before I was able to fulfill my destiny. Okay, because it's not a part of our conversations. And even when I got into Orisha, because we weren't calling it Isheshe too much back in the day, and into the ATRs, it wasn't a part of the conversation.
And for those who don't know what ATRs are, African traditional religions.
So it's like, okay, I get it, but I knew that there was more to it. I just knew it. And there is more to it. There is more to it.
Oh, a lot more.
And then some.
Yeah. I was speaking to someone today earlier after the call before we got on. I said, this science is so vast, we couldn't put it all in a million books. A million books wouldn't be enough to fit all that goes into what, this system of science is really capable of and what it entails, what it embodies.
So we got to get busy.
Yeah. You ain't lying.
We got to get busy.
Yeah.
If I can leave 16 books before my last day, I'll be like, okay, Rumula, you got my number? All right. So
that's right.
I'm good. But I can't rush it because then it gets phony. You know what I mean? It gets corny, it gets repetitive. That's why I'm not pushing to get the Elder Reflection book 2 out. But I have materials, and then I have, you know, things that are dawning from, you know, inside of me. And it's like, okay, but take your time, reflect on your reflections. You know what I mean? And make sure that what you deliver to the people, as OG say, is good. You know what I mean? It's soulful. I once, I don't know if I'm in, but she was reading and I think I told you, she was getting in touch. We might be cousins, and you know, and that part that I'm reading now, Baba, I was crying, you know, and I'm saying, you just crying? She says, yeah, you know, it just brought tears to my eyes. I said, well, you know, every word is a teardrop, you know. So, you know, people are feeling the sincerity because that's what we're giving in our writings, in our discussions, you know. So, yeah.
No, I agree. And that's what I do it for. And I know that's what you've been doing it for. So, you know, and I feel like it's the ebbs and flow, man. As, you know, we got to give to receive, reciprocity. So, you know, I definitely feel like the universe and spirit is definitely giving the reciprocity that we're giving and pouring into the spirit, for sure. I see it blossoming and growing. It's a beautiful thing.
I share.
But yeah, I appreciate it. Bye-bye. Once again, another legendary conversation and episode. It's always special. I give thanks, you know, always for you taking the time and joining us. Like I said, the feedback is still climbing. It's tremendous. And I give thanks to all of those who are giving thanks. You know, I'm going to quote Professor Kaba, I appreciate your appreciation, you know, because we really do. And it means a lot, for real. So I definitely appreciate all the love, all the feedback, you know, everybody who's been kind of joining. We're climbing and we're knocking on 400. Matter of fact, by the time this one hits the air, we might be at 400 subscribers. And, you know, people, you know, they're coming and they're showing love. So we're going to continue to grow and continue to put forth the effort and having these great conversations. And we got a few more things in store that we're really about to do to try to turn this thing up to another notch. So, yeah, I'll kind of, I don't know, Baba, you want to jump in any of that? Or you want to just leave it till next time?
You got it, man. You close where you want to close, you know. But,
yeah,
deep that you drop that, you know, because I say it's deep that you drop that. You might want to give it a little bit more to go on, though. My seat, you know. What you talking about? What you talking about, man? What you talking about?
We're working on really taking the Ashe to the next level. I'll say that. We're definitely looking into, and we've been working on it, but connecting and creating a true lighthouse. Not that this channel and this platform isn't a lighthouse. I feel like it is, and I give Baba a lot of kudos, credits, and props for you know, calling that out years ago on a conversation we had and putting the challenge out to me that I had to answer. Didn't know how I was going to answer it, when or why, but it happened, you know, and I feel like I started before I was even truly ready to start. But, you know, one of the conversations I had previous episode with Shamoni, sometimes we're not ever going to be ready. Nothing's never going to be perfect. And I say that to hopefully inspire or ignite something in somebody who's been sitting on that book, sitting on that lecture, sitting on that podcast, sitting on that documentary, sitting on that movie, sitting on that clothing line, whatever it is that, you know, the spirit, your Ori is speaking to you, start it. It don't matter if it's ready, if it's perfect, just start it, because you have no idea how the energies and the essence of the spirits will guide the right pieces in place to make things come together to be what it's supposed to be. And you all are witnessing that on a daily and weekly basis with the African Spiritual Experience, because nobody can do it all by themselves, and it's never been about me, it's about the we. First foot forward to make the effort to start, a whole lot of other powerful beings came in alignment with me to make this thing to grow into what it is. And we're just getting started. So I say all that to say, you know, do it, man. Take that leap of faith and jump and create. And the universe and the creator will definitely give you the alignment and draw that law of attraction and magnetism to you to help you to make it happen and manifest it. And especially if it's something that's for the work and the betterment of our community and our culture, because we all need it. And like to quote my boys Outkast, who I love tremendously, Andre 3 Stack says, the world's a stage, everybody must play their part. So the world's here, we're waiting for everybody to play their part, but we definitely playing ours. So I definitely appreciate you, Baba, and I look forward to bringing the lighthouse to the people on a more intimate, level and basis that, we'll be making happen in the very near future. So I look forward to that.
All right. Ashe.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. So it has been another episode of the African Spirituality Experience. I appreciate you all. Don't forget to please like, share, subscribe. And also, I just learned something new. Turn the notifications on, please, because that's something that I don't know how many of our subscribers do have the notifications on, but please turn those on so that way when we go live or we drop other posts and comments and things of that nature into the community, you'll get the alert so you'll be able to tap into that. Actually. So with that, we appreciate you all, and we'll see y'all on the next episode. I'm your host, Orisha Gbemi. Thank y'all for tuning in. Don't forget to please like, share, and subscribe. Shout out to Baba Ifa Karade. Y'all will get the handbook or GC, Souls of Murder. Y'all just jump on Amazon and grab all Baba's books. Yes, yeah, but yeah, we appreciate y'all. We'll see y'all next week. We out. Peace.
Yeah. Odabo.
Ẹni tó gbàgbé ilé sàpò ìyàpọ̀ tẹ́ǹtẹ́ ní takisa ní tàtàn ò bá padà sílé anítìjàkọ ẹja lọ pé eégún mo ṣe nígbẹ́rẹ́ ìpàkọ́. Forsake not your ancestors and pray.